Welcome to the Organized Expat, brought to you by Tytle, the platform for expat taxes. Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. Last time we talked about Italy in a country special, and we did that a little bit more in general because we thought it would be nice to give you first a brief and more general introduction into Italy, and especially expats or people moving to Italy, expats in Italy. And this time we would like to talk a little bit more about things that are of interest, but that were, let's say, a little bit too specific to delve into last time around. And I'm here together with Laurens.
Hi, everyone.
And Laurens is the expert who knows everything about taxes, and in particular expat taxes. And yeah, let's go straight to, I think, the point that was very important, the topic that was very important last time, but that we didn't really explore to the fullest. And now we're going to do that. So that's the so-called Impatriate, sometimes spelled Impatriate with an M, sometimes with an N, Impatriate regime. So what does that mean? What does the word Impatriate regime mean in the Italian context?
Right. So in that case, as opposed to expat, it's Impatriate. So return to the patria.
Yeah.
Again, return to Italy. So originally speaking, to revert the brain drain that Italy was suffering from.
Because Italy produced many expats, as there was a brain drain going on, as in many Southern European countries, Eastern European countries as well. People left Italy, went very often, I think, to Northern Europe, or maybe to the US, and now they're trying to get those people back, or they are already trying that for quite some time.
Exactly.
So the expats should become Impatriates.
Exactly. Yeah. So
going back to the
getting their people back.
Yeah.
And attracting foreign talent.
Yeah.
Which is something that I think around 2015, 16, 17, you saw a lot in Southern Europe.
Yeah.
Lots of countries, trying to boost their economy by also getting other brains in their country.
But here, it's I think already in this phase, it's important to note that although it's called the Impatriate regime, that doesn't mean that you have to be an Italian expat in order to benefit from this regime, that you go back to Italy, because it could also be that you're Dutch or German or French and you've never lived in Italy.
Yeah.
And now for the first time in your life, you would like to go to Italy and take advantage of this regime, the tax benefits, but maybe technically speaking, you're not really an Impatriate because you've never been an Italian national or you've never lived in Italy, but still you qualify, meeting certain requirements, you could qualify for this regime.
So that's why it has two objectives. One is getting Italians back, and two is also attracting foreign talent. And I think also just focusing on Italians would probably be against EU laws. It has a few reasons.
And shall we start with the bad news?
Yeah, sure. As in the bad news is that
it was a super big advantage, a super attractive regime in the past.
Exactly. So it used to be a tax break on income taxes for employed and self-employed persons of 70% normally, and then in the south and the islands 90%.
Yeah, so paying almost no taxes.
Almost no taxes.
And the bad news is that it's over. That doesn't.
I mean, it's not fully over. It's reduced to 50% right now, and 60% in some cases. So when you have a child, under 18 child, then it's a 60% income tax break. So 40% of your income in that case is your taxable
which
income.
Is, of course, still extremely high, a 60% tax break.
And
so,
I also don't think we've really seen a drop in clients that are at Tytle that are interested in going to Italy. Because, I mean, last year, of course...
I think even an increase, because people are getting a little bit less interested in Portugal because of the fact that the NHR regime, which was a super attractive regime for expats in Portugal, that has been abolished, or 95% abolished, only for academics it still exists. Now people are looking for other opportunities, and they
Exactly.
find that very often in Italy.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, of course, Italy already had these expat regimes, but I think for some reason Portugal had the best reputation of all those countries. But Italy is now the new shining city on the hill.
Yeah, and it's also good to mention here that you see two policies, Italian policies coming together. So first of all, getting talent to Italy,
Yeah.
but also trying to, because it's an aging country, I think one of the countries that's aging most quickly of all countries in Europe,
Yeah,
they
for
also
sure.
try to get more children in Italy. And if you
Exactly.
come with a child,
Yeah.
then your tax rate goes up from 50%
Right.
to 60%.
Even though I do have to say there that lots of countries have tried all kinds of things to get the birth rate up a bit
Yeah.
with fiscal incentives,
Yeah.
Especially Catholic countries like Belgium and France.
And it never works.
It never works.
Yeah.
So this is one of these demographic things that you just have to accept. It's very hard. In general, I would have to say it's hard to steer people's decisions with fiscal policy unless you make things so attractive that they're not going to pay taxes, for example.
Yeah.
But for example, fiscal policy doesn't really work when you want people to get more kids, for example.
Yeah, and it's very often hard to reverse. So what China did, they're now trying to reverse that demographic tendency. But okay, we're in Italy, we're not in China. So the Impatriate regime, tax breaks going from 50 to 60%, which means not that you calculate the taxes and then you write off 50 or 60%. You look at the income that you have and you reduce that by 50 or 60%, whatever applies.
Exactly.
Then you're going to calculate the taxes. And probably that's even more advantageous because then you're in a lower tax bracket.
You're in a lower tax bracket, of course, yeah. And I mean, of course, there's social security that needs to be paid as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just, and it used to be 70 and 90%. So it's not that it was just 10% of your taxable income. And that's it. As in, you do have to take social securities into account, but it was still very, very advantageous, as you said.
That comes on top of that, the social security. So, yeah. Okay. Employment, self-employment, does that matter for this tax?
Yeah, I mean, employment and self-employment are both covered by this regime. The only thing that was taken away, let's say, is what they call business income from individual entrepreneurs. So you would have to think of people who have, for example, a physical shop. You know, that's a freelancer or someone with a business that's a bit more has a bit more infrastructure. Yeah, exactly. Let's say if you want to start a pizzeria in Italy, for example, that is no longer covered by the new regime.
And maybe that makes sense because they are more interested in talent that offers services.
Exactly.
Probably
so just for
than
that.
pizzas because they have none of that in Italy.
Exactly. So I don't know how many times people have a pizzeria being a freelancer, but in general, it's about indeed what you said. They're more interested in services, in know-how, and not as much in goods.
Yeah, and I think that that makes sense because there is already a lot of let's say shops, physical business activity in Italy. It's well known for its industries of manufacturing. So. It's not that they want to attract more of that, but especially people offering their...
and you see that also in one other place in all those changes is that they're now looking for highly qualified professionals. So that's again that they want to select the very best. And then there's a couple of requirements, of course, when you're exactly highly qualified. But it used to be open for everyone. So therefore also very popular. Now it's a bit more limited, the scope.
Slightly more limited, and if it goes very well and you're making more than 600,000 a year, what happens then?
I mean, what happens then is that it's actually an income above that 600,000. I mean, that doesn't count anymore for the, as in you will not get all the advantages for that anymore. So it's not that if you earn 650,000, for example, that you cannot...
That you're not eligible anymore?
That you're not eligible, it's just for that excess amount.
Okay.
That you cannot claim the tax breaks on that.
So you get the full advantages for the 600,000, and if it's going to be 600,001, then for that €1, you have no tax break. And
Exactly,
if it goes up to 1 million, then for 400,000, you don't have any tax breaks. But for the whole amount up until 600,000, you will enjoy all benefits associated with this regime. Okay, that's important and good to know. What about Social Security? We already touched upon that. That will be added, so take that into account. What's also important, I think, is that we already discussed it a little bit, but this is an ongoing regime, so it hasn't been invented yesterday. It's already a little bit older, so there have been changes over time. And 2024, I think, was a year of change. So what's, for the people who are already familiar with the regime and they think they know all the details, what should they know regarding the changes?
All right, so regarding the changes, one that is important is that before you could not have been a tax resident of Italy in the 2 years before, the 2 tax years, let's say, before moving to Italy. Now that has been extended to 3 years.
Okay.
So there's a
making it slightly more difficult.
Or slightly less accessible, indeed.
So in a nutshell, you had to be fresh to Italy, and fresh means that you haven't been a tax resident in Italy for 2 consecutive tax years, and now it should be 3 consecutive tax years.
Exactly.
So you should be even more fresh to Italy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and then another one is that you must agree to stay a tax resident in Italy for at least 4 years. And it's funny to say that if you leave earlier, you will have to pay back the benefits that you had. So let's say if you leave after 2 years, for example, you have to pay back the benefits that you got.
This is a relevant point. So it's a real commitment. If you come to Italy and you think I'm going to take advantage of this tax Impatriate regime only for 1 year, and then I'm going to pack my bags again and I'm going to leave Italy, that doesn't work. So you really have to commit for 4 years. And if you leave early, before the 4th year, then you will pay back all benefits that you received.
With interest.
With interest.
Exactly, yeah. So that can be quite harsh. And it used to be 2 years, by the way. So
and if you're betting on Italy being a lenient country with lenient tax authorities, is that a good bet?
No, I think that the Italian tax authorities, they have the reputation of being among the more aggressive tax authorities in Europe. And I mean, here especially, I mean, it does make a bit of sense, because if you're giving a big tax cut to people, and they're, I mean, the commitment is that you have to stay 4 years. It used to be 2 years, but and they leave after 1 year, then that benefit was not granted the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah, because the rationale, of course, is that they want to get more activity, more, I don't know, business-minded people in Italy. And it's not a regime that people can just take advantage of and leave Italy again. It should really push Italy forward. It should be benefit Italy long term, and not only for a few months and then or for a year, and then you leave again. So keep in mind, it's going to be a 4-year commitment, and if not, you're going to pay back with interest all the benefits that you received. That's good to know. And the duration, also important.
5 years.
5 years.
It's a 5-year thing, And you used to be able to extend that for another 5 years under certain circumstances. Now it's not extendable anymore. So just 5 years is 5 years. Only if you've bought a property before 31 December 2023, you could have extended it by 3 years.
Making it 8 years in total.
Exactly, but people that are listening right now will probably not have bought property.
You cannot do that retroactively, so that's not going to work. And we already told the listeners that the north-south distinction, which is, of course, an important distinction in Italy. Life in the north is really different from the south. The south, generally speaking, is a little bit more focused on agriculture, is poorer than the north, especially cities like Milan. It's really banking, industrial city. Rome is more in the middle, is a political center, but the south, the Mezzogiorno, is a little bit poorer, and therefore there were bigger benefits if you decided to move to the south, and now it doesn't matter north, south, wherever you go,
Exactly.
it's the same tax
It's the
break that you
same
get.
50% or 60%.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter anymore whether
Yeah.
it's north or south. It's
And
great.
that changed. And it used to be open for everyone.
Yeah.
And now it's open.
Now, yeah, it's what I mentioned briefly in the beginning. It's now only open for highly qualified professionals.
Yeah.
And then there are some requirements. For example, more than 3 years of higher education, some proven work experience in certain fields, and a couple of other things.
Okay.
So it's not, and again, it's a bit less accessible.
Yeah, yeah. And I think because probably this is the most important information that you need to know about this Impatriate regime. But Laurens is also a big connoisseur, an expert in football as well.
Yeah.
And therefore, it might also be interesting to hear a little bit more how this played out in with regard to football in Italy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think around 2017, 2018, clubs in the Italian competition, because of these tax breaks of 70 to 90%, were able to attract superstars like Ronaldo or Lukaku.
Yeah.
But I think there was some, people started complaining, which I understand.
Now you're pronouncing Ronaldo the way everybody does, but we're based. Tytle is based in Portugal, so we know the right pronunciation, right?
It's Ronaldo.
Ronaldo is apparently the right pronunciation.
I try to be a bit more inclusive. So but I mean, it was reduced after to 50% tax break, because I mean, if you get multi-millionaires to your country and they're not paying anything in tax, I can understand that's a bit it's a bit brutal. But I mean, even with 50%, it was very advantageous for football players to settle in Italy, to come to the Italian competition. Portugal does something similar, by the way, as in they used to have it with NHR. That's why some Portuguese players returned to Portugal. But in Italy around 2020, I think, 2021, that was also ended. And it's now around 10%, the tax break for players. So you also see that it's not as easy for Italian top clubs to attract the superstars. There was like 2 to 3 seasons of fun.
Yeah. Okay. And politicians were not, let's say, inclined in order to favor Italian football even more, just to keep it this way, because it's funny, all the consequences of such a regime also in terms of football prestige, and that you can really play a better game in your country if you that's okay. So that's about it, I think. Did we forget anything, or was it all? Maybe if we did forget something, or if listeners are interested in more details or still have questions, as always, you can reach out to us. So you can send us an email, but also if you have tax problems maybe, or questions, or you want to move to Italy, you want to move out of Italy. So we at Tytle, we cover more than 30 countries. So Italy is among them. And it's a very, I think, modern and friendly way of helping people, assisting people. So if you're looking for tax help, then please reach out to us, and you will find it in the description as well. And that was it for today, and we'll hope to see you back in the next show. See you then. Bye-bye.